Have you ever heard of a tree that refuses to let wealth leave your home, even if you tried? Even if you closed your doors, trimmed it back, or forgot to water it for weeks? It would still find a way to bloom and bless you. Strange. Maybe, but in some cultures, planting the right tree in your yard is more than landscaping. It's a quiet invitation for fortune to linger year after year. Have you ever stood by your window, coffee in hand, and wondered, why does this season feel stuck, or felt like you've done everything right but your luck just slowed? Maybe it's not about effort. Maybe it's about energy and what you've planted or haven't right outside your door. This isn't superstition. It's a forgotten language of nature long honored by the wise and often dismissed by the modern. Some say it's nonsense, just trees, just shade. Others, especially the ones who have built quiet wealth over time, they'll tell you stories of how fortune turned after one small change in the garden. If you've ever felt curious, even just a little, leave a comment below. Your story or thought might be the light someone else is waiting for, because you're not the only one wondering if the old ways still matter. So today, let's return to what the earth has whispered all along. Subtle signs of wealth rooted in bark, leaf, and blossom. Let's explore 3 lucky trees for your yard. Even if you try, you can't block wealth. Some trees survive fire, some bloom in the shadow of ruin, and some wait a lifetime to come home. They used to call it the crabapple of the Western Palace, a tree of nobility once reserved for gardens behind high carved gates. Not planted, installed, as if it were more than a tree, as if it were the presence of prosperity itself. Its name in modern books is Malus spectabilis, the flowering crabapple of China. But in my family, it was never just a botanical name. It was grandmother's laughter under its spring canopy. It was father's inkstone table placed just beside its roots. It was the tree that saw more of us than we did of each other. They said it only bloomed when the air was right, not just in temperature but in tone, when the household was in harmony, when the garden was tended with still hands, when someone remembered to speak gently in the morning. But for 10 years, it hadn't bloomed. The petals that once spilled like royal silk across the courtyard were now just memories etched in cracked brick. I wasn't there to see its silence. I had left for years. They said the house dimmed when I did. The day I returned, not for celebration, but to settle old affairs, the tree stood there still. But something had shifted. I found an old carving at the base, half hidden by moss. Just one word written in the calligraphy my father once used: return. The gardener said it hadn't been watered in a decade, but the soil near the base was soft, almost warm. A scent lingered, not perfume, but something subtler. Like pages of an old letter opened under sunlight. That spring, it bloomed again, all at once, so full it looked like the clouds had descended and taken root. Soft petals, white at the tips, pink in the middle, red at the heart, like memories layered in time. A woman from the village passed by and gasped. "Is it true?" she whispered. "They say when the western crabapple blooms at the gate again, the family is whole." No one told her I had come back. No one had to. The Malus spectabilis is no ordinary tree. It blooms not just in season, but in memory. And when it does, it doesn't whisper, it declares. Its flowers emerge in April and May, holding both spring's gentleness and a hint of autumn's promise, for its fruit ripens by September. It is both beginning and completion, petals and harvest, hope and fulfillment. Its shape is rounded and full, like a gathering of generations. Each blossom has 5 delicate petals in old symbolism that was for 5 generations under one roof. A quiet prayer for longevity, harmony, and wealth that does not vanish in one lifetime. In our family, we never needed to say those words aloud. The tree said it for us. I remember one morning near the festival of Qingming. I saw my niece, just 6, trying to count the petals one by one. She didn't know their names, but she said they look like grandma's hands when she clapped. And I wept because yes, they did. And maybe that's what this tree always was, a witness, a keeper of soundless stories, a living altar of what we almost forgot. Some say crabapples are for fruit, that they're practical, but not this one. The Western Palace crabapple is ceremonial by nature. It doesn't just bear fruit, it remembers how joy once tasted. Its fragrance isn't strong, but if you breathe slowly beside it, you'll notice it smells like early spring rain that fell while no one was watching. And in feng shui, they say this tree draws not just good fortune, but the kind that's earned by healing old roots. They say planting it in the north of a courtyard brings warmth to winter. They say when it blooms again after years of silence, it means something has come full circle, a vow remembered, a heart returned, a home no longer ashamed to feel. That's what happened to me. I thought I was just coming back to sign papers, to close chapters, to trim away loose ends. But instead, I stood beneath its branches and realized not all wounds bloom as scars, some bloom as flowers. My grandmother used to say, the noble don't chase prosperity. They plant it, then wait for it to bloom. I never understood her until the tree opened again, not for the neighbors, not for ceremony, but just for me. And maybe that's what some trees are for, not to impress, but to remind. To remind you that you still belong, that your family's story didn't end when the house went quiet. That beauty, like forgiveness, sometimes arrives 10 years late, but it still arrives. So if your yard feels silent, if the air around your home has forgotten how to sing, don't worry, some trees are just waiting for the right soul to come back, to breathe near the roots, to say, even in silence, I remember, plant something. Let it carry your memory forward. Even if you try, you can't block wealth, not when it blooms from return. Let yours be the yard where something long silent begins again. Let yours be the home where petals fall, like blessings, from something ancient, that never truly left. Some flowers bloom with noise, they arrive in bright bursts, loud, immediate, demanding attention, but wisteria whispers. When it blooms, it doesn't shout, it drapes. It descends like a secret, and it changes everything. Long ago, during the Tang dynasty, there lived a magistrate named Lu Yuan. He had no title of importance. No gold, no land of value, just a quiet house near the river, a chipped tea shelf, and an old wisteria vine that curled around a wooden arch at the edge of his courtyard. Every spring, the vine would bloom, but always late, always modest, as if even the flower understood Lu Yuan's life. But one year it changed. Before the festival drums were unpacked, before the crowds stirred, the vine bloomed, early. All at once, the wooden arch transformed into a curtain of violet fluttering in the breeze like silk. Neighbors stopped, some bowed, and someone whispered, "That's a sign." Weeks later, a letter came from the capital. A memorial Lu Yuan had written 3 years earlier, suggesting a small reform in land tax had reached the emperor. It had prevented a famine. Lu Yuan was summoned, honored, given a new post. But even after his promotion, he returned each spring to sit beneath the vine. The early bloom never came again, but the lesson stayed. Sometimes blessings don't come fast, sometimes they come late, and sometimes they arrive all at once. Wisteria is not a flower for the impatient. It isn't the first to bloom, it doesn't chase the sun, but when it blossoms, it gives everything. Each cluster hangs like butterflies frozen in flight, a waterfall of lavender. A poem suspended from heaven. Its blooming season is long, from spring into the edge of autumn, and once it's rooted, its presence is felt deep in the garden's bones. The air softens, time slows, and the home begins to breathe. There is something different about sitting beneath wisteria, not beside it, beneath it. The world above turns violet. The wind doesn't blow, it brushes, and the petals don't fall, they float. Sit there long enough and something inside you softens. Your shoulders drop, your breath slows, and without knowing why, you exhale, not because you're tired, but because finally you don't need to prove anything. In feng shui, wisteria holds rare energy. Its vines climb, symbolizing upward qi. Its flowers hang, releasing excess weight. Its color, violet, is linked to the phrase Zai Qi Dong Lai, the purple mist from the east, believed to carry noble presence. Wisteria never fights to be seen, it grows slowly, faithfully. It may take years to bloom after planting, many give up before it flowers, but those who wait are never disappointed. Because when it blooms, it doesn't give you one flower, it gives you hundreds, soft, cascading, complete. That's why elders say wisteria brings longevity and right timing, not the quick success, but the quiet return, not the firework, but the warm light that stays long after the noise fades. In placement, it grows best in the east or southeast corner of a home, by a doorway, near a path, beside a sitting space, not just for beauty, but because it forms a living arch, a gate through which qi flows and returns. It softens sharp corners, it warms cold walls, it anchors stillness. And peace in this case is not emptiness, it is presence, the kind that says, "You don't have to chase anything, you are already home." A woman once said, "I planted wisteria the year my last child left. The first year only leaves, the second year nothing, I almost dug it out, but in the third spring I woke early. And there it was, the whole side of my house glowing purple, and I stood there crying. Because I realized, something beautiful can still begin again. Even after goodbye," wisteria reminds us. That delay is not denial, that beauty doesn't always come early. And that the deepest kind of wealth is not loud, it is loyal. We don't plant it for decoration, we plant it for memory because it waits with us, and it blooms when we're ready. So if you have a quiet corner, a patch of sun, and the willingness to wait, maybe wisteria is waiting for you too, not demanding, not fast, but true, a flower that never asks for more than it gives, a bloom that teaches you how to listen, and a quiet promise that what is meant for you will return in full bloom, even if it takes longer than you hoped. Most trees bloom to be seen. They arrive with noise, with flowers, with urgency, with a hunger to be noticed. But the Japanese maple doesn't. It changes. It doesn't rush. It waits. And when it changes everything. There's a story about a woman who planted a maple tree at the edge of her garden. Not because she loved trees, not because she had time, but because she felt something missing in the rhythm of her days. Her house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't soothe, but presses. Each morning looked like the one before. I needed to put something in the ground, she later said. Something that knew how to stay alive, even when nothing felt alive inside me. The first spring the tree was small. The second its leaves came in green and left without a sound. But in the third autumn, it caught fire, red, all over, like it had been waiting for her, like it had decided. Now is the moment. That's what the Japanese maple does. It doesn't declare. It doesn't compete. It simply watches and transforms when the timing is right. This tree, known as Acer palmatum, is treasured not for how fast it grows, but for how deeply it listens to the seasons. In spring it begins quietly, small buds like whispers at the edge of winter's silence. In summer the leaves deepen, offering cool shade and stillness. But it is autumn when the maple speaks loudest. Not with noise, but with color. The entire tree becomes a flame of gold, amber, and red. It doesn't ask for attention. It commands presence. And then without apology, it lets go, one leaf at a time, like someone unburdening quietly in trust. Because winter is not the end, only the pause before beginning again. To live beside a maple is to live beside someone who understands time. It teaches not through speech, but through movement, through stillness, through chain. Some days the leaves are red, other days gone. Some days branches bare, other days breathing green. And in that shifting, you begin to soften too. Not all at once, but season by season. A man once said, "I planted mine when I was still running, chasing promotions, markets, deadlines. And now, I sit under it and let the wind move me instead." That's what this tree does. It slows you down, but not backwards. It slows you inward, so that when change comes, it doesn't frighten you. It prepares you. In feng shui, the Japanese maple is considered a tree of graceful prosperity. It belongs to those who seek not instant wealth, but meaningful change. Its slow, steady rhythm is aligned with the energy of fire, especially visible in its red autumn leaves. But unlike a wild flame, this fire is tempered by earth, grounded, balanced, generous. When placed in the east or southeast corner of a garden, The maple encourages growth in vision, family harmony, and creative flow, not through force, but by creating a space where the chi can move freely, where beauty is both a focus and a frame. Its branches arc gently like a blessing, its trunk twists slowly like thought, and in its shade, one often finds clarity. Not loud, but clear, like hearing your own heartbeat in a quiet room. If you've ever felt behind in life, if you've ever thought your time had passed, the Japanese maple exists to remind you. Some of the most stunning transformations don't happen in youth. They happen after loss, after pause, after stillness, because some blessings ripen slowly. Some leaves turn red only after enduring the full heat of summer. One elder once said, "I didn't plant my maple for shade. I planted it to remember that life does not reward rushing. It rewards rhythm, and the maple has perfect rhythm. That's why many families, especially in Japan and Korea, plant it not for ornament, but for its wisdom, the kind passed from tree to home, from season to soul." So if you're standing in a chapter of waiting, if things feel quiet, still, undecided, maybe now is the right time to plant what you cannot rush, to anchor beauty that knows how to grow without asking for attention. Let this tree be your reminder. You don't have to bloom with the others. You only have to bloom when it's true. And when you do, the world will feel it. Because the Japanese maple doesn't just grow. It keeps a quiet covenant, a promise written in red, that you too are allowed to change. Not once, but again and again, season by season. Even now, even here, you are still becoming. Of all the trees you could plant, why do some feel like they were waiting for you? Perhaps it's not just about luck or feng shui placement, but about your readiness to receive. These 3 trees, once symbols on a screen, may now feel like quiet invitations, not merely to beautify a yard, but to awaken something within. A shift may already be happening, not loud, but real. If something in you feels called not to rush, but to root, trust that, because sometimes wealth doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives in stillness, in shade, in blossoms that open even if no one is watching. Leave a comment not just to speak, but to declare your shift. Your insight may be the very light someone else is waiting for. The tree is planted, the wind has paused, the next step is yours.